Ah, buildstone. The process of making something ridiculously simple, needlessly complex, for the looks of it. Why, you may ask? Because why not? It's way more fun to make something that looks cool than it is something that works. In my journey to animate as many of the Minecraft blocks as possible, I've come to quite the interesting one. Today, I'm going to find a way to animate the furnace. Now, the furnace has a couple of interesting quirks that make it a little bit harder to use, especially for automation. Now, the main one here is that I can put fuel into any of the sides and it'll always make its way into the furnace. Granted, you can't put it in the bottom. However, if you put it in the top and there's already fuel, it will go just straight to the top slot. However, with any sort of smeltable item, as you can see, you can't put it in any of the sides. You can only shove that stuff in the top, which means you can't have fuel going in the same side as you have your smeltable going in. It'll always come out the bottom because that's just how it works, but you have to keep that in mind when you're designing an automated system. Now, naturally, given that this is a buildstone project, I will be using the animated conveyor belt system to actually feed my furnace contraption. Now, there is a small problem, and that is the actual feed rate. So, while I can in theory put as many iron on a single stage as I want, the problem will eventually come to be that the rate at which it manifolds in is going to be low enough that you're only going to get them really in the first couple because it's just going to flow too slow. It's just going to flow too slow and they're going to smelt too slow. So it'll take forever to fill them all up, which inevitably means that the input rate is going to look a lot slower than the output rate for quite a bit. Now, unfortunately, this is one of those things that without some stupid complicated system to make sure it all evenly distributes down the manifold, it's just going to have to manifold. There's really no other option. So we're going to run with it and call that fine for now. But there's still a lot we need to do here. We need to have a way to get the item from back down here all the way back up to a conveyor line. And we also need to actually have a conveyor line for our fuel input. We could, in theory, get away without one and just have it fed through a chest at the back or something and not have it exposed. But it would look a lot cooler if we had both the iron coming in and the coal coming in. So we're going to do both. Now, since I'm going to need quite a bit of space for all of the animation stuff, I've had to engineer a bit of a complex turnaround for the conveyor belt. I'll also have to get a second conveyor belt in here, so that also adds to the complexity. But what I have is just a simple activating system that delays itself, so when it pushes, it basically shoves it all the way around and down, where I'll then feed it all the way back around and back into the line at a later point. It it's one of those things, it's pretty much the only way you can do it, it's the only way you can get away with it, because, unfortunately, well, there's not a lot of space to work with. So this is the path that I have identified to be, in theory, the most efficient for all of my conveyors to go between. I'm going to have my iron conveyor here, the coal conveyor here, and then the outflow over here. To get things up, I'm planning on using a water stream connected to a water elevator using soul sand. And from there, well, it'll just run continuously until the end of time, or it runs out of stuff to go in. Now, after a bit of wiring, all of the conveyors are now running. They're all hardwired off of just one loop here, so that way they don't just turn themselves off when you deload them. This is an option. The other option is using observers to just sense when they need to push. Those will deactivate though, so I've hardwired it. Now, all I gotta do is animate the actual device. So what I'm thinking here is some sort of like lava window that activates whenever the furnace is on. So it looks like the furnace is heating up or is producing molten slag that then comes out here as the iron ingot or whatever ingot. And so I'm thinking probably like a lava drop down as the main animation point. We'll see what I can come up with there. I might also potentially try to do something with flint and steel, but the issue with that is that they wear out over time, and so having like fire burning would only be until the flint and steel breaks. We'll see what we can come up with, though. Well, in order to make the lava come down when the furnaces are only on, I need to set up a detection circuit to make sure that I only get it when the furnaces are on. In order to do this, I'm going to use some comparators, which are going to sense when there are items in the furnace, and that will then let me send a signal up and around. Now, I'm also going to make sure that they have a signal extension here because I want any amount of item to give it a go. Now that I think about it, though, I do need to detract for the amount of coal that is in there. So, give me just a second here to math that out. Upon further inspection and doing the math, I realize there's a slight problem with detecting it like this, which is also like the only way you really can detect it. So, there's just an issue with the detection system in general. And that all comes down to the amount of items that go in here to read out. So, if there are 55 items in this furnace, it'll read out a signal strength of 5. However, if you go 69, so 64 plus 5, so 69 is a stack and 5, it'll give a power level of 6. Now, if this is full of coal and there's 1 iron in here, that would be active, and that would cause this to go, which is ideally what you want to do. But you also want it to activate when there's just 1 raw iron in here, which is a tad bit of an issue, because I need it to really be 65 items to go. I will assume that all of them aren't going to be consistently filled with coal in that scenario, but I can't do that. So the, I guess, correct way to do this is going to be calling it as 65 items, so 6 in the book, and then just assuming that it's going to fill up fast enough to activate it, and we can just run a test and see how that ends up working out. It's really one of those crap situations where there's not much you can do, and I think by reading out of the first one, we're going to get the most consistent result. But again, it's what do you do? What do you do? How do you get around it? The answer is you don't. I mean, there is another way to get around it, but ideally, I don't think it'll end up being truly consistent, and that would just be to, like, read out of here. However, the rate items are coming in, it might not always stay active because it'll pull it before it gets the signal sometimes. And I guess the other way would be to pull the signal off of the actual dispensing mechanism, but then you might have a similar issue, and that's just a whole mess. It doesn't stay active. It doesn't activate as soon as the iron goes in, which is interesting, to say the least. But look, there's just a lot of issues. This is the way we're doing it. I'm certain someone in the comments will figure out a better way to detect if there is iron in here, and will probably make me feel silly. This is what I think of at the time. This is what we're going with. Well, the only thing to really do now is just give this a go and see if it all actually hooks up and works. If it does, then we can move on to the next step. But if it doesn't, well, then we're going to have a bit of an issue here. Let's see if it'll work. We got a lot of iron going. It's going to go in. Going to start filling up. Okay. If it fills up to an adequate level. Yep, there we see. Okay, it goes on. So that's good. It's just got to fill up to an adequate level to activate. And then iron comes out. Sick. That means it's doing its job. At least to some degree. Are we having any bubbling issues with iron piling up? It does not look like it. So it's just taking a while to produce. And it looks like only 2 of our furnaces are actually filling up. I think as time goes on, it's going to fill to a point that they'll both be going a little bit quicker. They'll have more of them going, which will certainly help speed things up. But for now, it looks like we're getting iron out, albeit at a slow rate, and it looks like it'll maybe get stuck until one of those comes around. So I might need to add some more double ups then. But beyond that, the system appears to be working. Now at this point, while I've been building up some walls, I've had this running for a bit, and we finally have a 3rd furnace on, which means our iron output is a little bit higher than it was. Albeit, I do not appear to be seeing... Okay, so we have iron backing up now. That is a bit of an issue. That might be related to powering of some sort from this, because I moved this all down because I was thinking, well, it's great that we have this whole system, but wouldn't it also be better if we can actually turn it off? And so I built this a little bit lower, but I think that's now causing another issue with the dropper, so I should probably resolve that. But that being said, it still works. Now that's lower. And oh, I also decided to make this an observer because I realized it's not going to just automatically pull the lava out when it powers off unless I do that. Well, that problem was pretty easily resolved just by moving the signal over here versus on that side, because now it doesn't accidentally lock the dropper. That should have been an obvious thing I should have just done from the start, but I'm just a little silly sometimes. So this change here actually gives us a bit of an opportunity to do something else, and that is integrate an off switch. Now, granted, it's not going to be like an immediate off switch, but what I can do is I can come here and I can place these guys down with the redstone line. Using those repeaters, I can then power this block, which should, in theory, allow me to flick this lever, and these now should lock, which it looks like they're locking, which therefore will allow this all to just stop taking in new iron. Yes, okay. So because of that, whenever it runs out, it will all turn off. That is supposed to be powered on, but that is more for the fact that I was toying with it. There we go. So whenever I flick this switch on, as soon as it drains, that should all turn off, and stuff will stop coming out. For the meantime, all of this is just going to back up in there, and when I flick the lever back on, it'll all dump. Since I now have this very convenient on-off switch, I might as well actually make the conveyor belts be able to turn on and off with said on-off switch as well. I mean, it would make sense, right? So this should be a pretty simple adjustment to the circuit that should make it all run. All I'm doing is raising this wool block to give me a signal whenever it is on, so it can continuously repeat, and then using the observer to reactivate. Now, we'll see if it actually restarts the circuit when I flick the lever. It looks like it is. So everything is now working in order, and when I flick it off, everything should stop as soon as this drains, because it already started. It should any second. Oh, wow, that let in a lot of iron in that brief period, so it'll restart soon. It's going to just dump all the iron on the conveyor belt back here, though. So I might need to separate that one, so it continues running that for a bit. But beyond that, the power on and off appears to be working. You just have to wait for it all to actually shut down. Now, like most things, the solution is just to not do it the right way and give up a bit of usability by instead just letting that one always run independent. And, maybe I'll include a shut-off switch for it later, but you don't really need it. It functions perfectly fine, always running. I have just had a mega brain moment involving the firefly bush. You see, firefly bushes emit particles, and they emit particles whenever a certain light level is dropped below. So, if I manipulate a light level by using a sticky piston and just making an area dark, I can then make firefly particles come up, and those almost kind of look like sparks. So like the metal's sparking, and then particles go everywhere. So I've gone in now, and the firefly system is in. So it just simply is going to work on a redstone torch that'll power off when the circuit powers on to show that there's iron being smelted. So if I just toggle this off real quick by destroying the torch, you'll see the particles start to appear, and just like that, it now looks like there's the iron particles, whatever you would want to call them, start to show up over here. Now, there's not a lot of space to do them over here where I'd like to also get more of them, so I might have to see if I can find a way to cram them in over there. But for now, I've got a couple, and that is really the progress I wanted to show on that. Just one of those little details that I think in the long term is going to help this build be more lively. So why not add it? It's not too hard. Well, I've gone through now that I've got the fireflies and everything in, and decorated the whole room, finished it off so that we're in a working state. We've got the spinning fans in the background helping with airflow. We've got the spinning fans, another spinning fan, and the actual device itself. So I should probably turn it on now so we can look at what's going on here. So by powering it on, our whole thing fires to life, and our iron comes out, our coal comes out. They get pushed around and into our actual device. As you can see, our lava has already come down because we already had some iron stacked up and ready to go. and the iron comes right on out the chute here and down into the storage facility. Now, as iron smelts, more will come. It's going to be fairly inconsistent because it's pretty much running it in clumps and not, it's running it basically all at once. I mean, 4 of them basically spawn, and then you have to wait a bit, and then 4 go because of how the furnace is filled, because they were all pre-filled just so that it would come out smoother in the demonstration. It would take some time to manifold. But other than that, I mean, it works. Everything is smooth. I've got a flashing indicator light for pretty much every time the whole system clicks through. It's still running light. It's still good. Everything's fine. I mean, so that's it. That is, in essence, the build. It is very simple, fairly usable, and, well, I mean, I guess that's just the goal. Oh, you want to know what that button does? That button. Well, that's the e-stop. I mean, I guess I can show this off. It's not too hard. So, the e-stop, this is something cool I rigged up. When I click the e-stop, everything will stop working. Only do this when you're ready, because, it'll put it in an unrecoverable state. You have to go in and manually un-e-stop it. It's not like you can just click the lever and it'll work again. Okay? We're gonna do it. I can't click it. Why can't I click? Oh, right, there's an armor stand there. We're gonna pretend none of that happened and that armor stand wasn't there holding the glass over it. Anyway, the e-stop. What does it do? Well, I mean, unrecoverable state. Wait, what? What? I heard something weird. Oh!